This is Radar from the Radar Table coming at you with another edition of MLB Observations for the Hotstove recap, ending this year's 2023 season, going into this year's 2024 season, Week 7. Geraldo Reyes, minor deal with the A's. David McKinnon went to the KBO. He briefly played with the Angels as a corner infielder outfielder. Recently his birthday, so it's a good birthday present. Tommy Nance, minor deal with the Padres. Pirates DFA Roddery Munoz. Roddery doesn't seem like a Hispanic name. It seems like an American name, but he was then picked up by the Marlins. Nate Mondu's gone to the Padres on a minor league deal. Jackson Reitz re-signed with San Francisco. White Sox pick up Chucky Robinson. So they're going to start the year with Corey Lee, who they got from the Astros in the Kendall Gibbon trade. And his name's not Lee, whatever, Corey, and then they're going to go with now Max Stassi, they got in a trade from Atlanta, from way of LA, and they signed Chucky Robinson. So they're like, we're not going to sign a guy to a long-term deal at catcher because the market isn't that great, but we'll get a few guys here and there. Speaking of them, Victor Reyes, who had an amazing season in AAA for the White Sox after being a regular with the Tiger and was not one of the outfielders the White Sox called up to. They signed in minor league deals this year, got in trade. He's going to take his house to KBO because he's like, you know what? If the freaking White Sox will not pick me up to the major league club and I'm breaking in AAA, I'm just going to go KBO and get a payday. And speaking of the KBO, former Mariners outfielder Guillermo Herrera and former Mariners swing pitcher Reneas Elliott are re-signing in a minor league, re-signing to stay in the KBO. Emmanuel De Jesus is also going to the KBO. Cody Petit was cut. Austin Beck's gone to the Dodgers minor deal. And Sacres Brito, the one-time Diamondback and Pirates outfielder, is staying in KBO and has a great name. Spencer Watkins, the Nationals minor deal. Johan Ramirez to the Mets, a minor deal. Tayron Guerrero, the former Reds reliever, is going to the Angels on a minor league deal. Thomas Pannone is going to the Cubs on a minor league deal. Garrett Action, who I've never heard of, gets a 2-year minor league deal from the Rays. John Hesley is going to the Orioles for Cesar Espinal. Devin Sweet's going to San Francisco on a minor deal. Colin Snyder's the D-backs. Kyle Hart is also taking his talents to KBO. TJ Hopkins is going to San Francisco. Chance Adam is going to the Colorado Rockies. And Chris Bubik avoided arbitration with the Royals. He's one of the young guys they have in the rotation with Singer, so it makes sense. Max Castillo was DFA by Kansas City. And an interesting story, Jeter Downs, former prospect with the Dodgers, who the Red Sox got in the Mookie Betts trade, and they gave up on, and the Nationals picked him up. Well, the Yankees picked him up. So I don't know if he's going to be a backup utility player on this team because they're kind of locked in with Torres, Volpe, and DJ LeMahieu in the infield. But it's interesting. He was named after Derek Jeter, and he's going to play for the Yankees. Nebo Christmas and Travis Swaggerty, part-time major leaguers, are going to the Dodgers minor league deal. The Dodgers have injuries. I can see both those guys playing. They're more rotational depth. The White Sox DFA Luis Patino, so I guess Sox are not going to use him in the rotation this upcoming season. Taylor Wiedener is going to Atlanta minor deal. Taylor Scott's going to the Astros. Jose Espada is going to Japan. Ronaldo Hernandez is going to the Diamondbacks. And Edward Olivares, because the Royals make all these moves recently with the Seth Lugo and the Michael Walker and Hunter Renfroe and Will Smith and Chris Stratton, etc., and Garrett Hampson, who they picked up. They needed some 40-man roster spots. So Edward Olivares, one of their backup outfielders and part-time DH, would trade to the Pirates for minor leaguer Devis Nadal. Again, I don't know how much impact they make in the Pirates because they're kind of locked in with Reynolds and Sawinski in the outfield. So it'll be interesting to see there. Bailey Sports still wants to do baseball despite having this bankruptcy issue because they still have control of 11 teams, which is interesting because the Mariners took 100% control of Root Sports Northwest, and the Pirates and the Penguins are doing the same thing with the local sports network. Atlanta picked up Matt Carpenter and failed to trade him like they did with Stassi and Marco Gonzalez and Evan White and all these other guys. So they literally just cut him and have to eat his money, but they get a pitcher Ray Kerr for him, at least when San Diego gave him that pitcher. A's have signed Trevor Gott to a major league deal. Watch out for this guy to be flipped at the deadline. Congratulations, Shohei Ohtani and Ronald Acuna won Hank Aaron Award for best hitters in each league. Acuna dressed up at the baseball awards with Hank Aaron stuff, which is pretty cool. The Phillies announced that they'll have an official ceremony for Cole Hamels to retire as a Philly because that's his team no matter where else he played. So that'd be cool. Shinsu Chu said after next year's season where he's playing, he's going to retire. He hasn't played in the major leagues in a few years, but he was an all-star in the major league. Red Sox announced that Dustin Pedroia, Jonathan Papelbon, and Trot Nixon are joining the Red Sox Hall of Fame. Pedroia was well on his way to being a Hall of Famer. Papelbon, I think, is a Hall of Fame closer. And Trot Nixon was a longtime starter in right field. Speaking of them, C.J. Niezerowski, the former reliever and broadcaster, is joining the Atlanta Braves broadcast booth to relieve Jeff Francoeur of duties of not having to do every game. Tom Murphy signed a 2-year, $8.25 million deal to be the backup catcher in San Francisco. He kind of lost his job in Seattle, and I'm thinking to myself, like, that's $8.25 million. I think that's a lot for a backup catcher who's a former, like, Rockies catcher. Like, he's a backup. Like, the Giants should just continue giving Blake Sabol opportunities to play every day at catcher because he's not an outfielder and they have a set outfield. And they still don't know what to do with Joey Bart, so it's going to be interesting there. Martin Perez has signed with a deal with the Pirates for $8 million, so Texas loses another pitcher because Montgomery doesn't sign. They've lost Tim Stratton, Will Smith to all these signings, and of course, DeGrom and Scherzer are going to start the year injured. The Red Sox have hired former Yankees hitting coach instructor Dylan Lawson to be their minor league hitting coordinator. And the Pirates have re-signed Andrew McCutchen for a 5-year deal. He'll probably DH most days, play the occasional outfield. He said he doesn't want to play for anyone else, so, it's good to see that. Excuse me, sorry. Yuki Matsui, who's been a reliever for like 10 years and overseas, has signed a deal to be the closer of the Padres. There's no information really on how many years and how much money, but with Josh Hader being a free agent, they were like, let's sign this foreign import from Japan like everyone else is signing these guys. We'll get ourselves a closer here. So that's interesting there. They turned that way to fill that spot. Darren Holmes has been announced as the new Cubs bullpen coach, and Mark Stridemater is going to now be the catching coach. Holmes used to be in charge of like pitching in Baltimore. He got fired there, so the Cubs are like, well, I'll make him the bullpen coach because he's been a pitching coach before. Eric Haas is now the backup catcher in Milwaukee with Victor Caratini going to Houston. Eric Haas went from being third-string catcher to backup catcher to playing a lot of time for the Tigers and playing even outfield, but there should be no need to play the outfield in Milwaukee. He should just strictly be the backup catcher. And speaking of the Brewers, they dumped Adrian Hauser and Tyrone Taylor on the Mets for this Coleman Crow. The Mets, Brandon Nimmo and Starling Marte haven't been the most healthiest outfielders, so having a natural-born center fielder in Tyrone Taylor will be a nice pickup. And Adrian Hauser could just eat innings for the Mets as the fifth starter. Not a bad move. Jake Marisnick's on a minor deal with the Angels, and I know the Angels with Trout never being healthy and Taylor Ward and Joe Adele not being healthy, I could see him getting at bats. Sean Newcomb's having knee surgery, but they said he'll be ready for spring training. Yankees signed Nick Burdi and Luis Gonzalez minor league deals, and I feel like Nick Burdi could make the bullpen, and Luis Gonzalez will definitely get time in the outfield because we all know that Judge and Stan are going to miss time with injury. Jesus Aguilar taking his talent to Japan for a payday because he doesn't want to keep doing minor league deals, and he has been an all-star, so Japan looks... So, like, back in the day, I don't even know if it's still true now, but mostly, like, Japan, Korea, China, they see a guy who used to play the big leagues, and he was an all-star. They're like, let's give him money, he'll draw attention, so they're there. Jake Lamps, I might do the Pirates. I don't know if he's going to get a lot of at-bats at first base because of Connor Joe, or if he's going to get bats at third base with Ke'Bryan Hayes, but interesting pickup. Raul Alcantara, former ace pitcher Brandon Waddell, and former Diamondbacks and Reds outfielder Henry Ramos is going to the KBO. It's pretty popular. All these guys are going to the KBO. Brooks Kriskey's gone to the Reds on a minor league deal. And Hernan Perez is going to the Reds on a minor league deal. He's a super utility guy, so I can see him maybe playing for them. Major League Baseball announced the pitching clock is no longer going to be 20 seconds. They're going to make it 18, so that's going to be interesting, even less time. They're not having 5 mound for this. It's going to be 4. Again, 2 ways to speed up the game. And the runner lanes are going to be wide to include the infield dirt between the foul and the infield grass. So it's going to be interesting to have a wider lane for the runner, so it's going to be maybe better for them. And the pitcher who is sent out to warm up for an inning must face at least one batter. So if he's out there warming up, but then they decide to change their mind or something, like he's going to then, have to pitch to one batter, which is fine. Ty Blach, who keeps going back and forth in Colorado as a starting reliever, they re-signed him to a minor league deal. We'll definitely see him pitch for them this year. The Pirates have DFA'd Andre Jackson, and I thought, hey, didn't really get much innings in Los Angeles. Starting for the Pirates, nope, they DFA him. Shelby Miller got a major league deal out of the Tigers, I guess because he pitched somewhat healthy for the Dodgers this year, so that's interesting. Donnie Sands was DFA'd by the Tigers. Luis Patino after the White Sox got rid of him. The Padres picked him up because they just need bodies to pitch. Alfonso Rivas, we mentioned before, the Pirates let him go, and then Cleveland DFA'd him. Well, the Angels picked him up. Angels have too many first basemen, so I don't know if he's ever going to play. Connor Seabolt is taking his talents to KBO, while Diego Castillo, not the Mariners reliever, but another guy, the Diamondbacks guy, is DFA'd. And super utility man Nico Goodrum signed a minor deal with the Twins, and I maybe could foresee him playing for them. Biggest news was Yoshinobu Yamato has signed a 12-year, $325 million deal. And that's something because, interesting fact, is he becomes the first player to the highest paid, he becomes the highest paid player without ever having thrown a major league pitch for signing this deal. I said, well, the Dodgers go and get, Shohei Ohtani, who's not going to pitch for like a year, and that Kershaw's injured and May and Gosselin's injured, and they don't know if Julio is ever going to pitch for them again, and Yanni Chirinos is a swing guy, and they don't have enough pitching, right? Well, they go out and trade for Tyler Glasnow, who's a walking injury, and give him a long-term deal. They're hoping that Ohtani pitches them in 2025, and they like what they have in Bobby Miller. But again, their rotation is probably what's going to hold them back, because in a perfect situation, if Ohtani, Yamato, and Tyler Glasnow and Clayton Kershaw are your four pitchers, and let's say your fifth one was Bobby Miller, that would be cool. But let's say they don't even get Kershaw, and it's still Yamamoto, Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Walker Buehler, and Bobby Miller. They don't even need May and Gosselin. That would pretty be good. But again, with questions on when May, Gosselin, or Kershaw are going to pitch for them this season, if Urias never pitched, that's four guys down. And Ohtani can't pitch, so there's five guys. Yamato's going to have to be relied on to be the number two guy after Tyler Glasnow to ease Walker Buehler in as a three, and in his second season, Bobby Miller being the fourth. So that's a lot of money, and I was complaining that they're like, man, they never, they don't have enough pitching. Maybe they'll fix their bullpen, but still. That, I feel like, is a lot of money for guys that are pitching big leagues. But they said he's been doing it since he was like a teenager, since he was 18, so it's not like he's been doing it for 10 years and he's like 30-something. He's like 20. He's in his late 20s, man. So get as much innings as you can out of him in his late 20s and early 30s before he breaks down. That's a lot of years. But there's some opt-outs, so it's like he can at least test for agency a few times. They announced that Julio Rodriguez in the bonus pool will receive about 1,86534 from the $50 million bonus pool for pre-arbitration players. It's the highest of the 2023 ones. And obviously, it's for all these things he did. Corbin Carroll, Adley Rutschman, Sutter Strider, Justin Steele, Kyle Bradish, Batista, Gunnar Henderson, Anaheim, and Beebe. Tanner Beebe got pay raises because they all had pretty good seasons. And the Orioles of Maryland approved the new lease agreement. So we talked about how before that they committed to Camden Yards for 15. But now it's going to be 30 years. And they're hoping to agree to a development plan for the surrounding area in the next 4 years. And that lease can then be expanded from what they were saying. So I thought it was a really good ballpark. I wish I could go there more than one. But obviously they have until 27 to win approval for the grease line and development to be included in the B&O warehouse, the vacant Camden Station building, and adjacent parking area between the warehouse and train tracks. So obviously there's all these different things there. But it's a good ballpark, and it was modern back then. Major League Baseball announced also the all-first team, which they started a few years ago. Josh Hader and Batista were the relievers, and that makes sense. Batista, before he blew out his arm, best reliever in the American League, and Hader's always been a consistent guy. Ohtani's the DH, makes sense, and be in the rotation. Spencer Strider had an all-star season, so did Blake Snell, Zach Gallen, and Garrett Cole. Makes sense. Acuna made sense, so did Freddie Freeman and Austin Riley, and Corbin Carroll having an amazing rookie season. Adley Rutschman is the best catcher. That's just like, there's really not much to say. And Simeon and Seager, when both healthy as a combination, are probably the two best offensive middle infielders. And Mookie Betts had a good usual year, but my issue is he played more infield than outfield, so I don't understand that. I probably would have gone with someone else. But apparently that's what the voting was. And the other one is second team, where Emmanuel Clase, who's always a top 5 league saver for save in the American League, in the top 2 or 3 there, but overall top 5 major league. And Devin Williams, who former teammate of Hader's, was a really good reliever with the Brewers. Those make sense. Kevin Gausman, an all-star season. So did Sonny Gray. So did Montgomery, Eovaldi, and Kyle Bradish. But a little Texas Ranger heavy there. Jose Ramirez definitely always plays up a good season, so that makes sense. Matt Olson had an incredible season, but so did Freddie Freeman, so that's a toss-up. And Alvarez had a good offensive season because he is, after Ohtani, the second-best DH. And Jonah Heim had a good offensive season. He wasn't always catching every day, and he missed a chunk of time, but there aren't many good catchers that are not named Salvador Perez at this point, so he would be the only other guy there. And then obviously Lindor had a good offensive season. He's a good defensive shortstop. Obviously Albies had a good offensive season, and obviously Kyle Tucker, Adolis Garcia, and Aaron Judge had, good offensive seasons and stuff like that. So there's maybe a few questions of how many Rangers you got and Mookie Betts within position he's in, but overall they got the all MLB first second team correctly. But thanks again for listening to week number 7 of the 2023 end of 2023 season, going into the off season, going into this year's 2024 season Hotstove edition for Major League Baseball. On the Ray Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.